With Christmas on the horizon, I think it is a great time to look at some Christmas idents from the past, and with it being the end of the year, I would like to do something which sums up my YouTube year and do a video on Channel 5 Christmas idents, as my big series this year was on Channel 5, and I even did a follow-up video titled Did Channel 5 Predict the Future of a TV Ident? Many of the idents I will look at are probably not well remembered in comparison to Christmas idents on the BBC or other stations, probably down to viewing figures, and there is not much commentary on Channel 5 idents in general, but it is nice to talk about them, as Channel 5 idents, in my opinion, have been good, especially in the channel's infancy. So, what did the channel look like at Christmas over the years? Let's now have a look back at 20 years of Channel 5 Christmas idents. There is no other place to start off this story than 20 years ago, all the way back to the heady time we used to call 1997. The 1997 5 idents were based on live action, flashing lights, rotating logos and objects in a mixed inconsistent theme, and this theme of inconsistency was no surprise the theme of the Christmas idents. The 97 Christmas range were very identical to the Spy Hole and Golden Logo idents, and this one even had the same jingle as the original. The jingling from the original Gold ident was used again, which in fact fits well with the theme of being a Christmas ident, as this jingling sound is very Christmassy indeed. This ident appeared in short and long form, and there were also different colours to them, including blue and orange, and the logo was wrapped up by lights. There was also a variant of this with a blue background, but this time the logo was wrapped up in what appears to be green Christmas tree-like tinsel. These idents were on screen as of Christmas Eve, the same day as the BBC released their wonderful package based on the 12 days of Christmas. And this was the late 90s, where Christmas idents were restricted to Christmas Eve, Christmas Day and Boxing Day only. Being a forward-thinking channel, Channel 5 were the only station to have special New Year idents, and here is one seeing into 1998. I feel I have the right to include a New Year's ident in this episode, as New Year's Day does fall within the traditional 12 days of Christmas, and is also a part of the festive TV period. I didn't actually look into trailer stings in the Archive 5 series unless they were on Channel 4 a few years earlier, and by 1997 trailer stings and trailer packages had pretty much died out, but I do want to talk about these ones used at Christmas in 1997 on 5, because I do like them, as they are pointers to the original brand and thus strengthen it. This is one with a 5 logo in a snow globe, and it actually looks like the Granada Christmas ident from the same year. This would have made a good ident, and I don't see any records of it being an actual ident. Another one included this nice one with candles in the 5 main colours of the channel brand. Both these stings use the chimes from the Spy Hole Spinny, Gold and Festive idents. 1998 saw a different take on the Spy Hole and pledged to live action, with a person in a room featuring a stained glass window in the official Channel 5 colours, playing with a kaleidoscope. The kaleidoscope shot is very similar to the shot of the Spy Hole in the previous year's Christmas ident, and the scope produces a snowflake effect, which spins and interchanges. In the middle, the logo flashes. The jingle in this ident feels more Christmassy, with a more seasonal take on the chimes with a sleigh bell effect. I think that this is a better ident than those used in 1997. This ident also has echoes of ITV1 Future. Well, it is Channel 5. I like this ident for the creative reasons, however I like it more now after comparing the idents, as the 2005 variant on ITV1 does have a nice Christmassy feel to it, despite the fact I do not like the homogenised ITV1 idents for what they stand for. There was also an ident seeing into 1999, which had the year flashing in the same way the lowercase 5 did in the original set of idents, and this was based on flashing lights and rotating symbols. By Christmas 1999, the channel had changed their idents to a set of celebrity idents in a studio. The 1999 Christmas idents were not filmed in the studio, nor did they feature celebrities, but there were still elements of live action producing a story of those involved in the idents, similar to the idents with Bradley Walsh & Co. For me, Channel 5 were telling ITV1 how they should go about their efforts in 2002, instead of being lazy and replaying their idents with an added star effect around the channel logo, which wasn't Christmassy enough, and in 1999 Channel 5 went all out. It puzzles me why ITV would take a page out of the Channel 5 textbook for their main idents, but never did anything like this for their festivities. Maybe Channel 5 predicting the future could have came to something good. These idents are weird and for me represent 1990s quirkiness. However, I love them, though only really got a feel for them after looking them up on YouTube this year, as I mainly remember Christmas 99 for holograms in the sky and picture frames in space with a still ROG, and have no recollection of seeing these idents in 1999 during the festive period. The celebs made way for traditional Christmas characters, such as Santa before Coca-Cola allegedly changed the colour of his outfit, angels and soldiers. Like in the original set, the 5 logo jumps out of a hole, which is represented by a window with a view of a December night sky, and like in Christmas 1997, the logo is wrapped in lights. There was a common theme to this set of Christmas idents, and that was of a toy factory, thus making them feel even more Christmassy, and for this reason I prefer these to the 97 and 98 ranges. The fun thing about these idents was the decorations were actually people who moved, thus contributing to the 90s quirky nature. The story of this ident involves a family window shopping and at the same time watching the production line and then picking one they wanted despite all the soldiers being identical, and then placing it on a white Christmas tree before the antiqued logo jumped into the living room whilst the decoration smiles. The trademark jingle was even given a Christmassy touch to fit in with the branding of that time. 2000 saw the next batch of celebrity idents in the studio, which now had a tear in the paper wall, and this wall was made to look like wrapping paper over Christmas. The only famous face to appear in these idents was Saint Nick himself. Saint Nick either fell down the chimney, ripped his sack, or tried to keep the noise down in order to not wake up the kids, which would have been a relief had he woke them up, as the kids would have actually found out that he actually existed. The wrapping paper-like wall consisted of different patterns, either being green elves, blue presents, or gold stars. Again, these idents, like the general set and the idents from Christmas and All Year Round in 1999, had a feel-good and humorous touch to them. However, I do prefer the Christmas idents from a year before. 2001 saw some pretty damn good Christmas idents on Channel 5, and probably the best out of the 5 in a circle era, as they showed more imagination other than just mimicking the common theme. By observing them, you can see similarities between these idents and some of the 1997 idents. Each ident was accompanied by the same jingle and setting, and was based on a star morphing into the logo. Here is one called the Stargazer's ident, where the gazers look through a telescope and see a star which morphs into the channel logo. This is a similar technique to the one used in some of the 1997 original and Christmas idents. There was also one with angels who push away the clouds, making way for the mock meridian logo to appear again and morph into the 5 in a circle. This is what happens when two 90s TV legends meet at once. Towards the end, we see a view of a snow-covered town. In the same town, the curtain raises and makes way for a fairy who flies around and into the sky and makes the star morph into the logo. Maybe she wants to remind us that we are actually watching Channel 5 nationwide rather than ITV in Hampshire or Kent. Other idents included an umbrella ident where someone flies past a morphing logo and a flying bed. There was also a short ident for the news. Channel 5 tended to be the station who predicted the future of a TV ident. However, these idents do remind me of the 1991 BBC Two Christmas ident, as well as the 1999 Angel City variant on the same channel, and the Skygazers nodded back to Channel 5 at birth. But there could be a hint at predicting the future here, as it predicts how Channel 5 in a few years' time would take a page out of the BBC textbook by making idents similar to, or in a similar fashion to, the 1990s Two variations. 2002 saw the first major rebrand of the channel, but the annus horribilis of TV idents continued. The rebrand from numeral in a circle to lowercase word, pointing to ITV 10 years later, continued to provide us with bland idents. 2002 was neither a good year for Christmas idents, as the BBC One effort was poor, though they didn't help themselves as they replaced the Globe in March, and ITV couldn't be bothered even when they could have looked at their inspirers on 5 3 years prior, as they continued with a normal set and only added shooting stars round their logo. But hey ho, 5 at least made an effort. However, their effort was not the greatest. There were idents based on a school play and playing in the snow. This was basically tying in with the theme of the 5 idents being about the goings-on in life, but this time it was the goings-on during Christmas. The 2003 range was based on someone's Christmas road trip to the sound of Chris Rea's Driving Home for Christmas. 5 had used charted music in their idents, including Children by Robert Miles, and Rick Astley's 80s classic Never Gonna Give You Up, and in 2003 they did this with Rea's popular track to make the ident more Christmassy. However, there is no sound to the ident on this video in order to avoid flagging. If you do want to see these idents in full with the music, pop over to the website This Is 5, the website dedicated to Channel 5 idents. Idents included the car driving to Bethlehem, which seems to be in Wales, driving past a supplier of Christmas trees, driving past a shepherd, and there was also an ident showing the whole journey from inside the car. There were other idents introduced during Christmas in 2003, further tying in with the theme of the main package. And they were also shown after Christmas, presumably in the winter months where it may be cold and possibly snowing. These idents included a horse and cart in a snow-bedecked park and an ident with skaters. The continuation of the wintry themed idents on 5 post the 5th of January is similar to the BBC in 2007, where the skating penguins ident originally used for Christmas was recycled in the early months of 2008, where the tree in the middle was omitted and accompanied by a different take on the jingle, which is what 5 did with their skaters ident from 2003 in the winter months of 2004. Further proof that 5 influenced idents on other stations in the years to come. 2004 and 2005 were better years in the lowercase era, as the idents introduced in November 2004 were more creative. During Christmas, the logo was represented by an ice sculpture, either being built from scratch, standing idly by whilst kids play with sparklers, or being lit up by Roman candles. This ident was significant, as it was the first Christmas ident to be recycled on Channel 5, as it was also used in 2005. It made sense to introduce a new Christmas ident for 2006, as earlier in that year the Emotions idents were introduced, where the logo was absent, making way for 4-letter words in the same font as the official logo. The ident was appointed to Channel 5 Future, as the ident was promoting a charity supporting the homeless, thus mixing idents and adverts into one for the first time, which wasn't done until 2008, with cars only to become more in the mainstream on the station in the 2011-16 era. The words used in the Christmas ident was give. There were 2 variants of the same ident, where bikes, scarecrows, post boxes, boats and bridges lit up. The word give appeared in the middle of the ident on the boat before disappearing, and at the end the official channel logo returned after a year's absence. The Emotions idents were still around in 2007, but as soon as the 2006 Christmas ident was discontinued, the same idents sported the official channel logo rather than play or free. At Christmas, the idents were based on swirls and Christmassy effects such as sparkles, snowflakes and candles. The movie's ident, introduced in 2007 in the autumn, was also given a festive makeover with Father Christmas flying past. 2008 saw the second rebrand, with a word in uppercase and placed in a circle like the numeral in 1997. The 2008 Christmas range were based on objects flying in space, and these were similar to the animated idents shown before the news. The idents were on blue and purple backgrounds and involved trees, snowmen and snowflakes being formed up by sparkles and dots. For me, these idents are very similar to the 2015 BBC One idents shown at the start of that year, with the effects going around the circle, further strengthening the argument of 5 predicting the future. 2009 saw a cartoon-like ident, and probably a set not like anything seen before on the station. There was a slight refresh of the ident package that year, as the celebrities returned to the arena, and in Christmas, the closest thing to tie up with the theme was the incorporation of cartoon robins. The robins played around in a snowy setting to the sound of Santa Claus is Coming to Town, except for before the news, where there was a more sombre ident with the 2 robins standing by the logo. Both idents started with one of the robins pulling a worm out of the ground, and then the other birds in the background play around. In one of the idents, the other 4 robins roll a giant snowball down the hill, only for it to hit a tree and reveal the 5 logo. The other one focused more on the robin pulling the worm out of the ground, as a hole was created by the pull, showing the logo in the form of a puddle with the uppercase word in the middle of the puddle, which everyone gathers round. These idents were created by Sqaush and Stretch, an animation visualization and design company formed in 2008, a year before these idents aired. Since formation, they have also been responsible for the extra chewing gum adverts featuring animated food stuff, Bet365, National Tyres and Autocare, Euro Millions, and Curiously Cinnamon cereal, to name a few. I really like these idents and think that they are definitely the best of the word in a circle era. There was an ident which was not as Christmassy, featuring Justin Lee Collins in a cave to promote Heads or Tails, which was to be shown during the festive period, thus keeping with the 2009-10 technique of the Channel 5 idents. However, there was a Christmassy reference, as him from the Friday Night Project swapped the coin with a present. Christmas 2010 saw an ident based on a Jack-in-a-Box, revealing a 5 logo on each spring, which was to be the last Christmas variant with this logo. I am more of a fan of a Robins, but there is a throwback to 2 years earlier with the pictures of a Christmas object appearing on the box. 2011 saw the second coming of a numeral in a circle and the introduction of the studio idents. The Christmas idents also took place in the studio, and the 2011 festive variant was based on baubles, which one of them was a formation of the official logo, which works well, and this ident was recycled for 2012 and 13. We are now heading deep into the era where Christmas idents were being recycled, as had been seen on BBC, ITV and Channel 4 if they were being used at all. The bauble was also used in trailers. Channel 5 had only recommissioned their Christmas idents for another year once, and that was in 2005, where they reused the 2004 ice sculpture. Therefore, their track record on producing new Christmas idents every year in the 21st century is pretty good. The screen was still present this time, as it was represented by a present with a tag wishing all Channel 5 viewers a Merry Christmas. The studio era also saw idents mixed with adverts, and they did this with a Christmas touch. For example, a DFS ident, where a family sits on a sofa by a Christmas tree watching the big screen. If they weren't promoting products, they were promoting programmes. For example, this ident promoting the Muppets and Lady Gaga at Christmas, shown during the holidays in 2013. 2014 saw a new Christmas ident with an icy ident, possibly inspired by the popularity of Disney's Frozen, which was ubiquitous throughout the whole year. This was an improvement on the idents used for the last 3 years prior to this, and no wonder the announcer was enthusiastic about its launch.
Morning, it's Channel 5 and you join us at a very special moment for when the Christmas version of our logo makes its first appearance, like now.
The ident starts with a snowflake morphing before touching down and creating an effect Queen Elsa could only make, where the ground became a mix of a sheet of ice and spikes, only for the screen to be created by the ice. In terms of sponsored idents, the DFS idents made a return, but there was also an ident for TK Maxx. The last screen studio era Christmas ident hit the screens in December 2015, and there was a slight throwback to the end of a previous decade. In this was a snowscape, which was now red as opposed to blue, with the Robins all those years ago, which did make sense as the primary colour of a channel over the last 4 years was red. Hence the baubles were red, alongside some of the objects in the main idents. The beginning of the ident shows a circle-like effect made of snow, which reminds me of a hole created by the Robins in the Word in a Circle era, which then made way for a snowscape. This ident gave the impression of a train journey, where Santa and his reindeers fly past. The screen appears in billboard form in set with red trees and hills. This ident fitted in well with the promos and programme menus, which were based on the red scapes. I really like this ident, and for me was the best Christmas edition of the second numeral in a circle era, and what a good send-off for this era, as this logo only had 2 months left, and was not going to see a Christmas ident again. 2016 saw the third take on the numeral 5 as a symbol for the channel, with a Channel 4-esque logo, and a modern Channel 4 take on the technique of the ident, as no logos were present before introducing the programmes. What would be in store for Christmas though? Well, there were a few brake bumpers with the animated logo in space, and a festive makeover for the promos and menus. But what about the idents? Well, nothing. Despite being the channel to predict the future of a TV ident, when it came to Christmas 2016, they took on the old technique from other channels by not commissioning a Christmas ident at all, which was the technique ITV did for most of the Granada owned regions in 2000 and nationwide in 2002, with the exception of the effect around the logo. And it was also Channel 4's approach throughout most of the live action logo formations era, with the exception of the ident promoting the premiere of The Snow Dog in 2012. Possibly the reason for Channel 5 doing this is not being sure what to do with these idents for Christmas. However, it is not rocket science, as you could either have idents with 5 reindeers or 5 snowmen, or even give the main idents a festive makeover by adding snow to the road trip idents or adding Christmas decorations to the flat in the birds ident. This would tie in with the theme of the main idents, and it was something the channel managed in the dark days of 2002 and 3. So why not now? They might not be the best idents, but they would be Christmas idents, which is better than nothing. So what was in store for this year? Well, could the era of the logoless idents be on the way out after only 2 years on many stations? The Mark III numeral 5 features on an ident for the very first time, in which is obviously the first ever Christmas ident of this era. This ident is based on an advent calendar, so it made sense to debut it on the 1st of December, also to tie in with a theme of Christmas idents starting early in the month, which is common in this day and age, as proven on the same day by ITV, who reshown their Christmas idents from the last 4 years. I like this ident and find the idea of basing it on an advent calendar pretty clever. The boxes first show the doors to tell us what day in December it is, as well as how many days left till Christmas, before revolving to show presents, and then revolving to show the numeral 5 on a white background, which explodes with confetti. I also like this ident for being slightly retro, with it featuring animated logos in space, and I like it even more for showing the channel logo and playing around with it in a BBC2/Channel 4 way. I also think that the music is Christmassy. The last quarter of this year may spell the end of logoless idents, but not just with this Christmas ident on Channel 5, but the idents on Channel 4, which I praised in a previous video, which had glimpses of a Channel 4 logo at the end, as well as the central point being a man made up by the official logo in a different form. Maybe this gives us cause for optimism in 2018. There was also a break bumper based on the final shot of the ident, which was either silent like the traditional ones, or with sound effects. This year Channel 5 did not keep up with the theme like over the last 20 years, with the mixed idents from the 90s, the celebrity themed idents, the 5 era and the studio batch. This year alongside 2001 were the only exceptions, but both those years' Christmas variants were good idents, especially the 2001 range. In general, Channel 5 idents, in my opinion, have been great and forward thinking, and they never let down at Christmas too. And the channel has a great track record of commissioning new Christmas idents, with only repeating twice between 2004 and 5 and 2011 and 13 respectively, and 2016 being their only massive letdown by doing nothing. To conclude with a ramble, Channel 5 idents unfortunately seem overlooked, as there have been some great idents on the channel over the last 2 decades, and they do deserve to be talked about. I am Tim Goodwin, over and out, wishing you to take care this Christmas and for peace in the new year.